Blizzard just officially announced a new class is coming to Diablo Immortal. On top of that, they actually broke down even more. There's a roadmap for 2023 that talks about all the major updates coming to the game, what they're focusing on for 2023, etc. Let's go ahead and get into that and show you the information. So this is by Pez Radar. He's the community lead, sort of the head honcho over there for the community for Diablo Immortal. Now, if you look at this, this is called Looking at 2023 Diablo Immortal, and let's get going. So he says, racing in the 2023, the flames of the burning hells are burning, hotter than ever. It's a telltale sign of prolific things to come for Immortal. A little bit of a thematic start here. Team's committed to injecting frequent new content to Diablo Immortal. We have a numerous update. We cannot wait to share. So let's actually get to the part where he shares it. Let's just kind of skip through the welcome, thank you for coming type of stuff. Here we go. So the very first quarterly major updates. So they say in 2022, we released 2 major updates that added a new zone, dungeon, enemy types, and much more. This year, we plan to release 4 major updates containing improvements to clans, in-game social features, and gameplay. So keep in mind this game was only out about half the year. So 2 major updates, and if they're planning to do 4 next year, that means they're planning to do major updates sort of at the same cadence. I want to say one thing about this. Look at that. Introducing a new class, okay, and Hellicory bosses. You see that? While also introducing a new class and new Hellicory bosses. So there's our confirmation that yes, we do in fact have a new class coming to the game. Why do we think it's Blood Knight, okay, and not just like the Tempest or something? Well, the Blood Knight is basically fully completed in the data from what I can see and have been told by the data miner, okay? On top of that, keep in mind, the Blood Knight's been data farmed as early as literally the beta of the game. I mean, Wowhead was the first person that I've been able to find that was actually able to find information on the Blood Knight at all, and they did that before the game was even released. So I think it stands to logic, considering we can literally see all of the skills in the game, and we've talked about that in previous videos, that Blood Knight's probably the next class. There's also the argument that in the most recent Stormpoint Keep, people are saying that guy that shows up, sort of the blind guy, the Zatham guy, I forget exactly what his name is, okay? But he himself is a vampire, or gives off vampire tones, okay? So maybe the Blood Knight is something it's a little bit more thematic, okay? So let's move on here. So what else do we have here? We have clans, in-game social features, gameplay. Some people have theorized that the clans rework could be a changing of the Immortal Shadow system. I doubt that. I think they're quite happy with how the Immortal Shadow system is working. It's driving people to be competitive against each other. I think that's sort of the idea, and to drive monetization against each other. And I think that's working the way they want that to work. In-game social features, these could be kind of cool to have some more things to do together, I suppose. I'm not really sure what any of this means. It would be pure speculation. Okay, so moving on here, the narrative additions. Sanctuary is a land plagued by constant demonic threat. Simultaneously, the world stone shards force sudden and violent change to the landscape on a whim. This year, Immortal's narrative will continue to grow through new main quest lines and side quests that further develop Sanctuary's inhabitants. We all probably assumed that they were going to continue the story. I mean, they left the story halfway done. We're sort of at a cliffhanger after the Stormpoint. There's all these Worldstone shards that have been a problem that have yet to be completed. So yeah, obviously there's more story to come. This part gets pretty interesting. Ever-evolving gameplay. So core to the Diablo experience is its moment-to-moment gameplay, making quick-witted choices to decimate droves of demons as you continue to enrich your character's build with Sanctuary's most powerful gear. We will continue to release new legendary items to broaden class build options. To add to our gameplay variety, we plan to introduce a new competitive mode and fishing activity. So we have here essentially a PvP, I'm assuming PvP mode. It is a competitive mode. If it's not player versus player, it's competitive in another way. Maybe it's competitive in the aspect like the Challenge Rift leaderboards are competitive, so not at all. But this, what I'm assuming is this has to be some PvP mode. Now, they actually mentioned in the prior Q&A that they were currently testing new PvP modes, so maybe they're referencing that. However, this is cool to see, a fishing activity. It was a while ago that we brought to news that there might be a fishing activity based upon the Datamine ARPG's findings. And it's hilarious to see, I think it's literally months later at this point, that there actually is a fishing activity coming sometime in 2023. Would you have ever guessed you were going to be getting fishing in Diablo? Now I feel like I'm getting called out in my RuneScape skills. Then at the end here, we have some goodbyes. And now if you actually end up looking at the comments here, take a look at this. These are points. What's interesting is when I read the comments, it's always very often like kind of some feedback that's most often already been said. Or if it hasn't been said, it's like stuff that I read all the time in comments that are basically what I'm saying is the most popular. Like the ones that seem the most common seem the ones that get upvoted the most because other people are like, oh, I was also thinking that, so they upvote it. So the most common ones make it to the top. And ways to see runes changed, like the unused runes that you kind of get from running rifts, etc., that actually do something, I think are one of the most requested one. How about some new skills for existing classes? I think that's a pretty good addition. That's sort of what the legendary items are, though, to be fair. I think that's how they're doing that there. Can you make set item universal to encourage more class changes? This is something that, yeah, we've been begging for forever. I mean, I've been pretty much begging for this one since the start of the game. Do you guys ever thought of making Marketplace a cross-server too? Having one giant market, I don't know how that would go, to be honest. I'm not an economics expert in this stuff. Most of the time, I kind of lean back to my RuneScape economy experience when it comes to like in-game economies. And I don't think having one giant market I necessarily see a big problem with. I'm sure there is some issues I'm not necessarily seeing. Like when one person has a hack or a glitch or something happens that ends up like duplicating gems. Let's just say that happens at one point. Now it affects the entire economy instead of just that server. That's one thing that comes to mind. Let's see here. I want to see rewards for the world event and ornate chest improved. Dude, I would love to see the overworld rewards for the 4-person chest absolutely improved. I feel like if you get 4 people coordinated enough, they're all busy watching TV, the farming the overworld, to actually open up one of these 4-man chests, that should be a legendary either every time or at a minimum the first one of the day. 100% agree with this guy. Dungeons below the final highest difficulty should scale with player numbers. I think that's a good point. Make it where the hardest one's soloable, but the when you solo it takes longer for the most recent one, like it is currently. Basically, just have it exactly like it is for the hardest one that the server paragon's at, and the ones below that would scale based upon people, would help people that are trying to farm up. I like that. Plus, it would help my free-to-play series. Yeah. Let's continue here. As for the Shadow Assembly, I wish we can bless people more easily. Sure, don't mind seeing more armories. We need some more gold sinks, too. I think we have enough gold sinks. I think people with tons of gold are people that are doing the vault every single day, basically. Okay, continuing here. Blacksmith after defeating each raid boss. Yep, that would be cool. Game really needs to be optimized. Yeah, there's some lag issues, etc. So after that, is there anything really in here that steps out? I do think one thing is interesting here. Balanced class monks are notable much stronger. And then if you actually look in the Q&A, when they talk about the monk class here, they basically say that the monk class changes were a grand expression of these efforts. So I think they're almost praising their changes of the monk, making him very strong. So I don't think they're going to adjust the monk balance anytime soon. Speaking of monk balance, this guy's got a pretty good video on it. You can go watch it. It's called, I think it's called Battle Effect, Monks Infect Diablo Immortal. Pretty great name. His name's Lita, anyway. I'm going to give him a subscribe because I think his stuff looks pretty good. And credit goes to this guy for basically calling literally everything before it's happening. 2 months ago here is when he was able to find a new battleground, a new class, and a fishing mode, which basically were all confirmed in this posting today as of 2 months ago. So you can check him out as well. Pretty much it for today's news findings. Careful, DM. You're going to get demonetized. You know what I mean. It's the end of the video. Subscribe if you want. It would help me.